Today, I wanted to inoculate some spores that I got from New Zealand. So someone sent me these really cool Agar parasitica spores, and I'm going to inoculate those on Agar using a blade handle and a blade. So I forgot my sterilization loop at home, but I kind of wanted to show a different technique for doing a streak of some spores. So these are Agar parasitica. They're also known as a cycloslide, related to piapino mushrooms or black poplar mushrooms, but these are native to New Zealand, so I'm really excited. They grow very similar to Agricybe agarica. They are also, affiliated with poplar trees. Hey guys, what's up? Thanks for joining Fungi Friday. So I'm just talking about some spores that I got in the mail from New Zealand. So it's called a tawaka mushroom, and it has a really pleasant, almost anise flavor to it, similar to a piapino mushroom, except that they grow very large. So I'm super excited to try to cultivate these. They're a saprophytic, and they can be parasitic to tawaka trees, I believe. The poplar trees that are native to New Zealand. So it's kind of a problem in some areas, but mostly like old growth forests, you'll have big, patches of Agricybe. So I don't have my sterilization loop, and you can notice that my flow hood isn't on right now. So normally I don't do spore transfers with the flow hood on, just because it spreads the spores everywhere and they're not sterile to begin with, so it doesn't really matter that much. But I'll go ahead and just sterilize my hands, and just because I don't want to introduce any more yeast that might not be on the spores. But let's take a look at this print that we have here. So I can see some chunks of the gills falling out. So the gentleman from New Zealand, thank you for sending these, and I'll post an update on how these are doing. But they have a light brown spore print and a beige color, and these beautiful veils that come down just like a piapino. So it's an Agricybe parasitica, and some people are weary of growing these, like cultivating them, because they can be parasitic to trees, but I'm just gonna do it at a small scale, and I'm not too worried. In Colorado, it's mostly just conifers out here. All right, so you can see there's the remnants of the spore print. So right here, we got some really nice pieces from the gill that you can see. It's kind of hard to tell on the camera, but it's gonna be a tough one. But I'm excited to streak these out. So the first, I'm gonna do these on MEA, malt extract agar, and then I've also got a V9 agar, which is V8, and potato flakes. And I really like using this one because it has a low pH, so it will select for saprophytic fungi and fusarium and some other potentially infectious fungi. But it's really nice for isolating tricky strains or starting off spores, because it's not going to promote a lot of bacterial growth. But then I do have an MEA plate in case the spores are not as viable. That's going to give them a better chance to grow. And then I also have one plate that I did, it's kind of a mix of MEA and V9, so a little bit in between. And then I've got my map torch here, so I'm going to use this after I get my initial spores on the plate so I can do my 3-part streak. So I don't usually use flames in the lab, but I'm gonna make sure that my alcohol is far away. And like I said, I don't have my flow hood on, so I'm not too concerned about, you know, the debris flying all over my lab. All right, guys, so I've got a fresh blade, and normally I'll use a sterile inoculation loop, but blades will work just fine, especially trying to scrape off these pieces from this cardboard. So I'll just take my blade here, if you can see it in the camera, and there's a few pieces of really condensed spores. I'm gonna try to get like one of these flakes like that. So you can see I got a nice flake from the spore print, and I'm gonna inoculate it onto this plate, which is MEA and V9, and I'm gonna do it kind of off center. So you can see right there. And I'm gonna go on to the other plates right now, just so I have the cleanest blade possible. So you can see I got another piece right there. And then all right, so all right, so now that I have the main piece of the spore prints inoculated on the plates, I'm gonna close this up, and I might do a serial dilution later in the week with the rest of these, just because they're kind of clumped up, but it probably, you know, isn't ideal going through the mail, and if the letter gets all folded and abused. But you can save these spores in the foil. And now I'm gonna start my map. So you wanna get it to a nice blue flame, so you can see at the tip right there. And basically I'm just eliminating those spore clumps off the tip of my blade so that I can spread out those spores nice and evenly. So someone has some comments. So someone's asking me, induction heater. Yes, I like the ones with the glass beads in it, the bacinerators. Those are really nice, but this is just what I have right now. And then someone says, Tony Simmons, ever been able to get spore prints from store-bought mushrooms? Absolutely. I always think, you know, store-bought mushrooms are a good way to start off growing. They're usually pretty commercially viable strains, and I've bred, you know, wild strains with store-bought strains before and got really good results. But I'm gonna just, all right, so I just cool the blade by sticking it into the auger, and now I'm just gonna streak out these spores. So I'll kind of flip this one so you guys can see it. And I'm using the blunt side here really carefully. Just gonna streak out an area there, and this is gonna have, you know, 100x times the spores as the next area that I'm gonna streak. So I'm gonna take my blade, cool it off in the auger so it doesn't kill any of the spores, and then I'm gonna rotate it and pull from these streaks across here. So So normally I would use a loop for this, but I'm just going to use my blade handle, and I can see the streaks here. And then the idea is, as I'm streaking it out, the spores, I'm grabbing fewer and fewer spores. So then I'm going to go right towards the middle of the plate, and this is where I'm shooting for my isolation colonies. So for everyone joining in, I'm streaking out some Agar parasitica I got from New Zealand. So the reason I'm not tissue culturing these from the store is because no one else is growing these. These are, the first Agar parasitica that I've ever tried growing, and I'm just gonna do it on Master's Mix and see what happens. So now I'm using my V9 Agar, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Try and get some nice chunky parts to break up in that first part. So shout out to Farzana123 from Pakistan. Thanks for joining us. Just doing some spore isolations. Alright, so it's a little bit harder to see on these V9 plates, but basically I'm just spreading the spores so I can get an isolate, and then I'll take that isolate, move it onto another plate, and then grow them out from there. And if you haven't seen it yet, I have a video on how to breed mushrooms from spores that's a lot more detailed. This is kind of a quick and dirty method because I didn't have, a super good quality spore print. But this is a new plate for me. It's a half V9 and half MEA. I just did a half and half when I poured it. And I'm kind of just breaking up that piece of the spore print. And then I rotate it about 30 degrees, and then I'll pull from that area lightly like a paintbrush. Whoop. And it works a lot better with a sterile loop. All right. So I've got 3 plates here, plenty of spores left for doing a serial dilution. And I'll just shut off my torch here and make sure that I don't touch that for a while. It's pretty hot. And then I'll pull off this blade. And label up these plates. So thanks again for sending these Agar parasitica, and we will post everyone once we get some fruits. Might take a few months, but hopefully we can fruit them out. And I can't wait to eat a giant, it's almost like a giant piapino. So OG Misen has a question. So what is your question? All right. So thanks everyone for joining in. And when I'm done labeling these, I'll just put some parafilm . I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for joining, guys. So I'm trying to get some guest people lined up. My friend Zach is going to be joining in a Fungi Friday pretty soon. He's got some cool lids that he makes for ball jars. They're like liquid culture lids and some cool concepts that he's going to be playing with. And then a friend of mine from Boulder is going to join us at some point. He does a foraging company out in the Front Range, so he's going to talk about that, so I'm pretty excited. So stay tuned for that. Cool. And we are about to go live with our mushroom cultivation classes. So our first class is tomorrow. If you haven't checked out mushroomcult.net, all of our events are posted on that calendar. We've got 2 live classes every month, and then we're gonna do 1 online class, which is gonna be a full demonstration with Zach and I, live Q&A, like a 4 to 5 hour event, and that's gonna be the second weekend of every month too. So check out mushroomcult.net for more information on that. First classes are tomorrow, so I think maybe we have one space left, but it's very limited due to COVID. But we're gonna be, wearing masks and staying safe, socially distanced, and we're working in a clean room, so I feel like it's gonna be as safe as possible. But we're pretty excited to get back into classes. Last year we did a bunch of them all over Denver, and it was so nice to, meet all the mushroom enthusiasts and build the community. And once the pandemic blows over, everyone who's local to Denver is welcome to join the Denver Mushroom Cooperative. So that's a group of us that meet every 3rd Monday in Denver, and we just all gather and talk about mushrooms, and we've all given presentations, and it's just a really tight-knit community of mushroom growers. And then there's also the Colorado Mycological Society, which they've done a lot of online events this year, but usually they have Fungi Fest in Denver where people will go out foraging, and then we'll all identify mushrooms. So that's going to be happening hopefully in the summer. And then we're going to be doing farmers markets. So I'm going to continue doing these Fungi Fridays. If anyone has any questions or suggestions, feel free to shout out in the comments. And then I'm going to be posting some new cultures on Etsy. We got some of our chestnuts that I pulled out of slants, and we got some shiitake that we're growing, and our rosebud, the rosebud pink oyster. So that one looking real healthy. We're about to go back into full production, so I should have a bunch of fresh plates on our Etsy, Fresh Fungi. We've also got some merch on there, our coffee mugs, but mostly I'm just gearing up for our classes so I can give a quick tour to everyone. So this is our lab here at mycoworld. So we've got our temporary incubators right here. So we've got a bunch of cultures that we're gonna be experimenting with tomorrow. So the idea is that it's gonna be 50% lecture, 50% hands-on learning, and we're going through the whole entire process, start to finish, a bunch of shortcut techniques, some of my proprietary methods that I'm gonna be sharing with our students. All the students get 10% off to Lion's Mane in Denver. So right after you're done learning, you can go down there, get whatever supplies you need at a nice discount, and they're super knowledgeable down there too, so they answer lots of questions that people get, and it's a really nice group of people. So this is the lab for the lab portion, and then I'll show you guys where we're going to be doing our lectures here. So This is our lecture room. We got our TV set up to do PowerPoint, and this is our demo table. So we're gonna demonstrate how to make bulk substrate, green spawn, which is set up right here, and we've got our packet. So this is our schedule here, and we've got all of our notes. It's a pretty thick packet, so tons of information. If you're in the area, you can sign up at mushroomcult.net. Even someone's flying in from out of state, so if you want to join us, there's still some spots left. They're filling up quickly, but check out mushroomcult.net. All right, guys, thanks for joining Fresh from the Farm Fungi on Fungi Friday, and until next time, much love.